is which as far as the top and bottom.
Sorry. The top,
Sorry, I apologize, Your Honor.
That's okay.
the top spectrum is item 3-1, and the bottom spectrum is item 7-18.18.
And Ms. Hanley, when you're comparing these two as far as the data that you receive, what is it specifically that you're looking at in your comparison as far as the data is concerned?
So when I'm comparing the spectra, I'm looking at the peaks in each sample to determine if they are consistent or not consistent.
Thank you. And if I could turn your attention to the red plastic material from the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing and the red plastic from the passenger side taillight of the defendant's vehicle, what did you conclude in your analysis there?
So upon comparison, the red plastic from 7-18.18 was found to be consistent in color, microscopic appearance, and instrumental properties with the red plastic from item 3-1. So accordingly, the red plastic from 7-18.18 could have originated from the red plastic from item 3-1 or from another source with the same characteristics.
Thank you. And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the red plastic data. And Ms. Hanley, directing your attention to the screen again with the laser pointer, if you could delineate for the jury as far as which set of data is associated with which item.
So the top spectrum is item 3-1, and the bottom spectrum is item 7-18.18.
And again, if you could just direct the jury's attention with that laser pointer to the areas as far as the data peaks and valleys that you're looking at in comparison of this data.
So when I'm comparing them, I'm comparing the peaks to each other in each of the spectra to determine if they are consistent or not consistent.
And in this case, you found them to be consistent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Ms. Gilman, lastly, if I could have the microspec data. And Ms. Hanley, if you could describe for the jury, please, what are we looking at in this particular data set?
So this is the comparison data from the microspec of the red plastic from item 3-1 and the red plastic from 7-18.18.
And as far as the data in any microspec, but particularly this one up on the screen, using that laser pointer, could you illustrate to the jury sort of what these individual lines or what this data means?
So these are the samples that I ran, and samples that I ran from item 3-1 and 7-18.18, and the spectra are overlaid in order to determine, to look at it and to determine whether they have a consistent or not consistent pattern.
And from overlaying the data from the pieces of plastic from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing and the pieces of plastic from the defendant's taillight, what do you observe as far as from overlaying those two sort of data points?
So I determined that they had consistent microspec data.
Again, if you could just remind the jury as far as the microspec data, what type of data is that?
So the microspec, it analyzes samples that have color. So it provides information of a sample's dyes or pigments.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Thank you, Ms. Hanley. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hanley.
Good afternoon.
Nice to see you again. We met about a year ago. First things first, you were just talking about some plastic pieces in 7-18.8, correct?
It was 7-18.18.
0.18, I left the one out. 7-18.18. We're dealing with a lot of numbers. I'm going to see if we can cut through that here in a second.
Sure.
First of all, you indicated that you were doing a comparative analysis in different, sort of different categorical ways, using microscopy, using the microspec, using the FTIR. I think you also use the FTIR in that as well.
Yes.
And you indicated that your analysis concluded with those pieces could have come from the same source, from the source in 3-1, the taillight. But you're not conclusively saying they did, correct?
It could have come from, they could have a common origin, or it could have come from another source with the same characteristics.
Right. So in other words, another way to say that, Ms. Hanley, is it may have come from the taillight, may not have.
It's a possibility.
Okay. I also want to ask you real quick about the taillight manufacturer. You were shown an exhibit, I think it's exhibit 200, and I think we have that available. With the court's permission, we don't have to cut the lights. I think the lighting is just fine. This is exhibit, or a photograph of exhibit 200 that you saw just a second ago. Quick question about that. In your inspection of that taillight, it's true, is it not, that is manufactured entirely of plastic or plasticine pieces? There is no glass in that taillight, correct?
I have to check my notes. I don't think I noted any glass.
Okay. So in other words, you didn't note any glass inherent in the manufacture of that taillight. It's basically plastic.
Yeah, I think most of the parts were plastic. I'm not 100% sure if the entire thing was plastic. There may have been other material, but portions were plastic.
But you certainly didn't see any glass inherent in the manufacture process.
I'd have to double check my notes, but I don't think I did.
Okay.
Do you want her to check her notes?
Why don't you?
No problem.
Are your notes in front of you?
Yes.
With the court's permission.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so I did not make any notation that I noted portions that were glass.
Great. Final point before we get into the actual analysis. On any of the glass, I want to shift gears to just the glass material that you analyzed and that you looked at and you inspected. You saw no blood, no skin, no biological material, no tissue, human tissue or otherwise, on any of those pieces that you inspected, did you?
Upon examination of those items, making observations of those types of material, that's not my area of expertise. I don't think I noted anything that was maybe consistent with that.
So in other words, even though you're not in the bio material expert section of the lab, You certainly would have noted if there was skin or biological material or obvious blood on glass pieces. You were looking at them in many cases through a stereo microscope, correct?
Yes, I would have made note of observations of anything that I would have noted on the surface.
Great, and you did not, because you didn't see anything that was suggestive of that, right?
I think I just made note, I have to check each item, but I think I did note that there was some dirt debris on some of the items.
But not biological material.
I did not note anything that would be maybe consistent with that.
Great, thank you. I want to talk about the comparisons that you did. And you'll forgive me, I'm a visual learner. So I'd like to talk about it in 4 categories.
Okay.
Linear categories. Category 1, item 3-2. Category 2, item 3-3. Category 3, item 7-12. Category 4, item 7-14. 3, 2, 3, 3, 7, 12, 7, 14. Can we talk about them in those particulars?
Sure.
Okay. 3-2 was the cup, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm going to use the word cup rather than glass for obvious reasons. You can get confused by that. So when I say the cup, do you know what I'm talking about?
Item 3-2.
Great. 3-3 are the 5 items that were found on the bumper, claimed to have been found on the bumper by MSP or crime. Okay?
Yes.
5 items, A, B, C, D, and E, correct?
Correct.
Item 7-12 are 9 items, glass items, that were recovered at 34 Fairview by Trooper Buchanan in an evidence envelope, correct?
So sustained as to who they were recovered from.
Sure. Did you receive the items along with an evidence envelope?
I need to double check if it was an envelope, but I received it packaged.
Okay. And the packaging normally, under normal circumstances, the packaging comes with labels. It gives you reference about where things came from. For instance, when Mr. Lally asked you, were you aware or did you become aware that items were claimed to have been found on the bumper? You didn't actually find those items, but that was the description you were given, correct?
That was the description of the item in our limb system.
Okay. And going back to 7-12, that's our 3rd category. Was that described as 9 pieces of glass that were found at 34 Fairview by a sergeant by the name of Buchanan? Or do you recall that?
I am not sure who recovered them.
Well, what it said on the evidence envelope, that's what I'm asking.
I would have to check my photos to see if it says that.
We'll get to that in just a second. But fair enough. 7-12, 9 items, A, B, C, D, E. And if my memory serves, I, K, and L.
I'd have to refer to my notes to,
Can you please?
yes. So the 9 pieces of glass from 7-12 were labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, I, K, and L.
Great. And then finally, what was in 7-14, that's an easy one, 1 piece of glass.
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
If I could, Ms. Hanley, I'm going to hand you photographs. That should be 2 photographs of the exact same thing. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
I've never seen, I did not take this photo.
Understood.
So I'm not, I haven't seen them, so I don't know.
So I'm asking you to look. I know you haven't seen
Yeah.
that photo. Does it look like the cup?
It looks consistent with the cup.
Okay. Just set this aside for a second. Take a look at the second photo. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photo?
I did not take this photo. It appears to be a photo of a container that another analyst took a photo of item 7-12.
And item 7-12, once again, included plastic pieces and 9 glass pieces, correct?
Correct.
Do you see the evidence label on the very top of that evidence envelope?
I'm not sure which label you're talking
The
about.
one
Oh,
under the red tape.
yes.
Does that appear to be a label marker that's done to maintain chain of custody?
So I think that label. Sorry.
Sure, can we bring these over to the side?
Sure.
jurors, sometimes where it's sidebar in an effort to try and speed things up. So even though we take your time that way, this should make things move a little easier.
So you can cut that from that.
Thank you. Ms. Hanley, I was asking you previously, we already looked at what's been marked for identification as triple G. I was asking you about what has now been marked as triple H. If you'll just look at that, what I'm most interested in is, do you see a name, a trooper's name in the middle of that evidence bag?
Yes, I do.
Is that Buchanan?
It looks like it says that, yeah.
Okay, and just so we're clear, that bag is associated with 7-12 of your analysis. The item 7-12, correct?
Yes, again, I didn't take this photo, but I have,
I
yeah.
realize that. It says 7-12
Yeah.
right on the photo. doesn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's all I need. Taking a look at what's been marked as triple I for identification. Do you see a name associated with that evidence bag?
Yes.
What name is that?
It's actually a little hard to read. It looks like it says, it could say Trooper Proctor.
Okay, and that is associated with 7-14, our fourth category, correct?
It is labeled as, excuse me, 7-14.
Thank you. And finally, does that, which has been marked as, for identification at least, as triple J, does that appear to be the contents of that bag, which is a single piece of glass in 7-14?
This appears to be the photo that the analyst prior to me took of item 7-14.
And that would be analyst Valier.
Correct.
You see her initials there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the four categories, just so we're clear and we can stop using so many numbers because they can get confusing. 3-2 is the cup, right?
Yes,
3-3 is the bumper glass, correct?
that is correct.
7-12 is the Buchanan glass, correct? You just looked at it,
Yes,
okay? 7-14 is the Proctor glass, the single piece, correct?
correct.
So when I make reference to those items by those names, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
hesitant.
No, I just, I'm just used to referring to them to the item numbers, but I will try to stay with you.
My brain will melt if we continue that way.
Can she do it both, Mr. Jackson?
Sure. Any way that you wish. I have another document that I would like to approach with, if I could, with the court's permission.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like you to take a look at that. You've got a copy of this. Have you ever seen that before, or a variation of it?
Yes.
Okay. Saw it last year, correct? Or something close to it last year?
Yeah, it looks consistent.
Okay.
I'm sorry, may we approach on this?
Okay. If there are any others, Mr. Jackson, why don't we bring all the
This is it.
So I think I gave somebody the copy that I was using. I need a copy.
If I may approach?
Yes. Thank you. All right, so let's mark this first for identification.
Happy to.
KKK for ID.
Ms. Hanley, if I could ask you very briefly, I want to go through this chalk with you for a moment. Do you recognize something on the left, looking at the first category? Do you see 3-2?
Yes,
How is that described?
it's described as a cup.
Okay, and you see that there's a photographic representation of the cup just above it, correct?
It looks consistent with,
Okay. Moving to the second category. What category is that?
it's item 3-3.
And 3-3, first of all, there's a photograph above it. Do you see that?
Yes,
It appears to be of a bumper, correct?
yes,
You didn't take that picture.
I did not.
Okay, let's look down beneath it. You indicated that there were 5 items in 3-3, A, B, C, D, and E, correct?
Correct.
Do you see A, B, C, D, and E represented in that category on this chart?
I do see A, B, C, D, E
Do you see it on the page?
categorized, yes.
Great. Under A, you previously testified that the bumper glass sub A in 3-3 did not match the cup, correct?
That's correct.
Did not match anything in 7-12?
Sorry, just give me one moment. That's correct.
And did not match anything in 7-14?
That's correct.
And you see those represented by sort of the international symbol for negative, correct? A circle with a line through it. Correct?
Yes,
Okay. Under subcategory B, glass B, or item 3-3B, did not match the cup, did not match 7-12, did not match 7-14.
that's
Is
correct.
that accurately represented on the chart?
Yes,
Finally, with regard to E as an echo in that same item, 3-3, you see that there is a green indication that glass recovered by Proctor does match or did match in your analysis or was consistent with the item in 7-14, correct?
it was consistent microscopically and instrumentally.
Does that
With-
accurately reflect that finding on this chalk?
Yes,
Okay, now turning to category 3. There were 9 pieces of glass that you looked at, correct?
correct.
A through F, I, K, and L. Is that right?
If I could just reference my report to make sure.
Of course.
Yes, those are the correct letters.
And A, B, C, D, F, and K all matched the cup, correct?
Again, I would just need to confirm with my report.
Take your time.
Yes, so A, B, C, D, F, and K
All matched the cup.
had a physical match to 3-2, the cup.
Is that accurately represented on this chart? With green.
Yes,
And E is an echo, I is in India, and I think that's L is in Lima, did not match the cup, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, is that accurately represented on this chart?
Yes,
And finally, the last category, 7-14, that is the single piece of glass that was recovered by Trooper Proctor. That did not match the cup, and it did not match anything in 7-12, correct? to check your notes, feel free.
Yes, that's correct.
Is that accurately represented on the chart?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission with the amendment that the court indicated at sidebar of triple K.
Okay, I'm going to allow it in.
205.
205?
Yeah.
Your Honor, the court indicated that it would like to see us before anything's published to the jurors.
Okay, come on over for a second. Actually, have those have those been done?
It has been done, and
Okay.
I was going to explain at sidebar.
All right, then come on over. $205.
Thank you. Request permission to publish.
Yes.
Ms. Hanley, you see the chalk that's been, or actually what's been marked as Exhibit 205 in evidence on the screen?
Yes.
Is that consistent with what you and I were just talking about at the witness stand?
Yes.
If you'll direct your attention to the screen on the right, just because it's a little easier and I think the laser pointer shows up a little better. You see the 4 categories represented in this exhibit?
Yes.
Okay, so 3-2, I'm going to go over it very quickly one more time, just visually. 3-2 on the left is the cup, correct?
Yes.
3-3 represents the 5 pieces of glass of what we've called the bumper glass, A, B, C, D, and E, correct?
Yes.
7-12 is the 9 pieces of glass recovered by Trooper Buchanan at 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
And finally, 7-14 is the single piece of glass recovered by Trooper Proctor, correct?
Yes.
Taking these one by one, just so everybody see. Taking these one by one, looking at starting with the bumper glass, category 2. Piece A did not match the cup, anything in 7-12 or anything in 7-14, correct?
That's correct.
Piece B did not match the cup, did not match anything in 7-12, did not match anything in 7-14, correct?
That's correct.
And moving over to category 3, there were some matches in these 9 items, 6 of them, A, B, C, D, F, and K, correct?
Yes.
But what those matched, Ms. Hanley, with a cup, nothing on the bumper, correct?
Correct.
And what didn't match the cup were E, I, and L. Is that right?
That's correct.
Moving back to category 2, however, there was one thing, item E, that did match something in this series of categories. Isn't that right?
Um, not a physical match, but instrumentally there was consistency.
All right. And this is an item, the only piece of bumper glass, the only piece of bumper glass to match anything else in your analysis. Matched what? What was consistent with what?
So item 3-3, piece E, was consistent in physical and instrumental properties with the sample that I took from item 7-14.
Which is the single piece of glass recovered by Michael Proctor, correct?
Yes.
But not a single piece of glass, nothing that you analyzed coming from that bumper matched the cup, did it? Nothing.
Physical match comparison, there was no physical match comparison to the cup.
Are we done with this, Mr. Jackson?
We can take this down, Your Honor. Your Honor, that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Lally?
Now, Ms. Hanley, as far as you were asked some questions on cross-examination about biological pieces or tissue or things being on the glass, and you referenced that that was done in another unit, correct?
Yes, if that type of examination was needed, that would be done in a different unit.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow that, but next question.
Which unit would that be conducted in?
Objection.
So the objection sustained. You need more, Mr. Lally, before you move on.
Now, as far as the chalk that you were just presented, as far as the 4 photographs that were depicted in there, have you ever seen any of those 4 photographs before?
No.
Do you know specifically who or where any of the items 3-2, 3-3, 7-12, or 7-4 were physically recovered from?
I just have the description that's put in the LIMS system when it's submitted to the lab.
And do you know that 3-2, the drinking glass, was recovered by the Canton Police Department on January 29th, 2022?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know that item 3-3, the bumper glass, was recovered by Ms. Maureen Hartnett from your lab on February 1st, 2022?
Sustained.
Do you know that each of the 4 items were recovered by different people on different dates at different
May
locations?
we approach?
Yes.
I'm going to pause here and say, well, yes, you fucking rock. The defense rests.
wrong at school. It's how great Marcia is at this, or how wonderful Marcia did that.
Arca, arca, arca.
Ms. Hanley, from your conclusions that you testified about before, you found that the item 3-2, the drinking glass, was consistent with 6 different pieces from item 7-12 that were found in the roadway outside of 34 Fairview Road, correct?
That's correct.
And you also found that piece E from item 3-3, the bumper glass, was consistent with the single piece from item 7-14 that was found in the roadway outside of 34 Fairview Road. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you also found that items from 7-18.18, the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing, were consistent with the item 3-1, the taillight housing, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to form.
Now, as far as the chalk that you were presented with on cross-examination, was there anything in there about item 7-18.18 or item 3-1, either the taillight housing or the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing?
No, there was not.
Nothing further.
Anything?
Very briefly. So in sum, not a single piece of glass on that bumper could be connected to that cup, correct?
There was no physical match to the pieces that I compared for physical match from the bumper. There was no physical match to the glass cup 3-2.
Thank you. So another way of saying that is not a single piece of glass that you analyzed on that bumper matched that cup, correct?
Sustained.
But the one piece of glass that did match something came from the same source, it was consistent with coming from the same source as the single piece of glass recovered when in possession of or bagged by Trooper Michael Proctor, correct?
It was consistent with item 7-14.
That's all.
All right, Ms. Hanley, you are all set. I'm going to see counsel for a minute. Feel free to stand up and stretch.